The hangar echoed with the low hum of engines and the sharp smell of jet fuel. It was another dawn at Nellis Air Force Base, and the sky had just started to blush orange over the Nevada desert. Captain Jack Harlan stood beside a row of F-16s, his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the new recruits stepping out of the transport bus. He was tall, confident, and sharp, the kind of man whose swagger could be heard before he even spoke. And when he saw the first 3 names on the new pilot roster, his smirk widened. "All women," he muttered under his breath. "Guess the Air Force is running out of men." No one said anything, but his words carried, heavy, cutting, and arrogant. The new recruits fresh out of flight school kept their composure. They knew the looks, the whispers, the quiet doubt that always followed women into the cockpit. But none of them said a word. They just adjusted their caps, lifted their chins, and walked past him. One of them, however, paused for just a moment. She turned slightly, her gray-blue eyes steady, unreadable. Her name tag read Captain L. Myers. She didn't respond to his jab. She just nodded once, a calm that somehow stung worse than any retort. Jack scoffed and turned away. Weeks passed. Jack continued to dominate the training sessions. His scores were top of the charts, his maneuvers sharp, his takeoffs clean. The women were good, sure, but to him, they were just playing catch-up in a man's world. He laughed about them in the mess hall, cracked jokes in the simulator room, and dismissed their efforts as lucky days. The base had seen his kind before, talented but prideful, brilliant but blind. What Jack didn't know was that Captain Myers had a record that most men could only dream of. A record classified in a file marked Operation Steel Rain. One morning, the commander called a surprise drill, a high-stakes mock combat simulation with live conditions. The goal was simple: 2 teams, 1 sky, and only 1 victor. Jack was chosen as team leader for Viper Squad. Captain Myers led Falcon Team. Jack smirked as he strapped into his jet. "Good luck keeping up," he said through the radio, his voice dripping with confidence. What followed was chaos, the kind that turned training exercises into legends. The sky thundered with engines as both teams climbed, rolled, and fired simulated missiles across the desert. Jack was good, and too good men, but Myers was better. She moved like she could see the wind itself. Every time Jack thought he had her locked, she'd vanish from radar, reappearing behind him, tagging his tail before he could blink. He grew frustrated, reckless. His pride began to crumble midair, and when he finally tried to pull a maneuver too tight, his jet went into a spin. For a terrifying moment, it was all over. Alarms blaring, G-forces crushing his chest. Then her voice cut through the static. "Easy on the throttle, Captain. You're losing altitude. Follow my lead." He wanted to argue, but his survival instinct overruled his ego. He followed her instructions, every precise, calm word, and seconds later his jet stabilized. He landed safely, trembling, humbled, and silent. When he climbed out of the cockpit, she was already there, helmet under her arm, eyes steady as before. "Nice flying," she said simply, then walked away. Jack didn't sleep that night. The laughter that had once come so easily now felt hollow. Over the next months, things began to shift. Jack started paying attention to her technique, her calm precision under pressure, the way she treated every mechanic, every cadet, every officer with quiet respect. She never bragged, never corrected him in public, never reminded him of his failure. Yet the more he watched, the smaller he felt inside his own arrogance. Then came the deployment, a real mission, not a simulation. The details were sparse, the orders sudden. A rescue operation in hostile territory. Both Jack and Myers were assigned to lead a joint strike escort for the extraction team. It was supposed to be routine. It wasn't. Halfway through the mission, their communication link went dark. Ground fire lit up the sky. The extraction chopper was hit and spinning toward the ground. Jack's instincts screamed to retreat, but Myers' jet didn't turn back. She dove into the chaos, cutting through gunfire, covering the chopper as it limped to safety. Her plane took hits, fuel leaking, alarms shrieking. "You're not going to make it out," Jack shouted over the comms. Her reply came quiet and steady. "Then I'll make sure they do." And she did. The chopper cleared the zone. Myers' jet went down moments later. Silence filled the radio. They found her 3 days later, bruised, dehydrated, but alive. She had ejected before impact, walked for miles through the desert to signal rescue. When the base commander heard the full report, she was awarded the Silver Star. Jack stood in the crowd as she saluted, his chest heavy with guilt and awe. He realized, maybe for the first time in his career, what true strength looked like. Not the loud kind that needed to be seen, but the quiet kind that refused to break no matter how hard the storm hit. Years passed. Jack rose in rank, wiser now, his arrogance replaced by gratitude. He taught young pilots about courage, teamwork, and respect. And whenever a woman walked into the flight room, he stood up, because he knew better now. One day, years later, Jack returned to Nellis as part of a visiting veterans delegation. He was older, slower, but the sight of those jets still stirred something deep in him. As he stood watching a new generation of pilots take off, a staff sergeant approached and saluted. "Sir, the general would like a word." Jack nodded and followed, curious. When he entered the hangar office, he froze. Behind the desk, wearing a crisp uniform adorned with silver stars, sat General L. Myers. Time hadn't dulled her presence. If anything, it had only sharpened it. She rose and extended her hand. "Captain Harlan," she said with a faint smile, "it's good to see you again." Jack stood silent for a moment, emotion rising in his throat. "No, General," he finally said softly. "It's good to finally see you for who you've always been." She smiled again, that same quiet smile from years ago. And for Jack, it was a full-circle moment. The same woman he had laughed at was now his superior, his hero, and the very definition of what leadership meant. He realized that respect isn't something granted by rank or gender. It's earned by the fire you walk through, by the battles you fight even when no one believes in you. And as the hangar doors opened again, revealing the next batch of young pilots preparing for flight, Jack caught himself smiling, not with pride but with hope. Because now he knew the sky had no favorites and courage had no gender.